Welcome back to another episode of the ImPrint Experience, where we dive deep into the world of print marketing, client experience, events, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Judea Morris, and today I am thrilled to have a guest who knows all about the power of voice and influence. If you've ever felt that there's a gap between you and your goals, that distance might just lie in the stories you tell yourself, we're going to explore how you can use your voice and your narrative to bridge that gap. Joining me is my brother, Sam X Mwanga, a voice empowerment catalyst and the host of the Morning Catalyst podcast on Spotify. Sam is passionate about helping purpose driven entrepreneurs and leaders unlock the power of their voice to elevate their visibility and influence. Sam, welcome to the show.
Sister, thank you for welcoming me into the show. I don't know if you know how thrilled I am, but thank you so much.
No problem. So let's jump right in. So, Sam, you have talked a lot about the importance of the stories we tell ourselves. Can you share how the stories we carry impact our success, whether that's in business, doing an event, or even in print marketing?
Definitely. First of all, that is so true. We all have a goal, a dream, something deep inside that we desire more than our present reality.
Mm,
Ask yourself, what is that thing that you really want? Sometimes it's hidden inside of us. Sometimes it's not so apparent. We can tell ourselves many stories and go about our days, but if we're not clear what it is that we really want, then we're going to wake up every day and play the same story, whether it's stories that we live in our mind or the stories that we act out through our actions and habits. And so the stories we tell ourselves are so important.
mm,
Everything that we're going through right now, everything that we experience is a result of our beliefs, of our thoughts, of the ideas that we were given.
mhm.
Maybe, and when you think about that, the stories you tell yourself, I think is the number one reason why people struggle so much to attain what they want in life and business.
Mm.
They let those stories come in a way and they play the same patterns over and over again. And I say they, but I'm included myself, right? Like we all going through those moments every now and then. One of the ways that I found out throughout my journey, building my projects, connecting with my tribe,
Mm.
is to be aware of those stories first. But there's a trap. And that's the thing with coaching. We want to bring awareness to people so they can make the step to change. Many
Yeah.
times we think the awareness is the first step and it changes everything. I don't know, Dia. I don't know if you ever been on a coaching session. Have you ever had coaching before?
I have.
Did you ever have what they call the aha moment?
Yes.
I put an H at the beginning of the first A, but you understand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got an aha moment. You got a realization. Did you tell yourself after that moment, oh, wow, like that is so true? Did it ever feel like, oh, something shifted, like a perspective shift? And I'm talking to you if you're listening as well. Ask yourself the question, right? Did you ever got that moment? And then you went right back into the same patterns right after that. Did it ever happen to you?
Yes.
How painful is that?
Yeah. Very.
And that's the thing with coaching. A lot of the times we get the insights, right? It doesn't have to be through coaching. It can be also through different realization, right?
Yeah.
Different stories that we live, different experiences. But a lot of the times we get the insights. The insight is 20% of it all.
Mm.
If you don't change something physically in your habits, your actions, and you don't tap into the 80% that's going to move the needle, that's going to make the real change, you're not going to make the change because those stories are deeply rooted into your mind, into your subconsciousness.
I love that. It's honestly like a vicious cycle sometimes. That's super powerful. And so, as the voice empowerment catalyst, I know your mission is to help people unlock the power of their voice. So, how do you believe entrepreneurs can use their voice to enhance their influence and visibility?
Yeah. So that's a big one, right? What I've seen is people wanting to be seen and heard. And there are many reasons for that. They want to sell, like we all want to sell more of our products, services, offers. We
Mhm.
all want that. But deep inside, what if we sell something that isn't really valuable to people? What if we sell something that isn't tied to our purpose, our mission, or something that we're passionate about? What if there's something missing, right?
Yeah.
And so deep inside, yes, we want to be seen and heard so that we can generate more leads, sell more products and offers. But deep inside, we have a message. We have something deeper that we want to share. This is the part of us that stays hidden by becoming conscious about the mission you are on, the message and the story you want to share with people,
Mm.
kind of impact that you want to make. Then after that, you can go out there, use your voice and make the change you're seeking to make. Anything related to business that's going to make the business successful is downstream to you sharing. If you use your voice and liberate yourself from self-doubt, limiting beliefs, fear of judgment that keeps you limited,
Yeah.
if you free yourself from that, then I'm telling you, you're going to start to see results in ways that you never thought possible before.
Wow. Whew, I can see the shift as you just said that. I can happening for people. But for many of my listeners, event curators, entrepreneurs, and business owners, there's often a gap between where they are now and where they want to be. So, Sam, how can they begin to bridge that gap using some of the principles that you teach?
Yeah. I like to talk about the three pillars. They are catalytic pillars.
Mm,
Those three pillars are the vision. If if you have a clear idea of where you're going and where you want to be and what you want to create, then
mhm.
it's going to be easier to map out a plan and to look for the resources and the tools to get there. If you don't have a clear idea of what it is that you're building, and sometimes it's a fine line because sometimes it comes as a result of action, right? So I'm not talking about sitting there and think all day, visualize about what it is that you want to create. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen it.
Yeah.
You conceptualized something, you had a project, you had the idea, there was a seed that was planted.
Yes.
You didn't think too long about the whole journey and mapping process. You just did the action, but you had the seed. You had an idea. When I asked you last week about why it is that you started the podcast,
Mhm.
you told me, you're like, I want to have more digital real estate so that people, when they come across your brand,
Mhm.
can see you as the go-to expert in your field and they can hear your voice.
Yeah.
The vision doesn't have to be complicated. The
Mm.
vision is really about an ideal future picture that you want to materialize. But this is the first pillar, right?
Okay.
So if you're struggling and if you feel like you're holding back, sometimes it's just a matter of letting go of the expectations and business pressure of making sales. We need to have a bigger vision of why it is that we're working. Simon Sinek says, start with why.
Yeah.
Start with why. And it was in 2021. I attended one of his workshop.
Oh,
It was a 2-hour workshop, and that workshop was incredible. I don't know if it was the Start with Why workshop or the Find Your Why workshop, but the way it worked is that we had to prepare stories, bring them to the workshop, and
mhm.
then we were paired with somebody in breakout rooms for 10 minutes each time for 3 times. Yeah, that was so powerful because each time we got into the room, we told our stories. And internally, I told myself, I have so many stories. How do
Wow.
I know which one to tell?
Mm.
I was confused. I was like, what if I'm telling the stories, but they don't really represent my why and the person that I'm with in the room doesn't really get it,
Yeah.
right? And so we did those 3 breakout room sessions. And on the final one, the other person had to tell our why. Imagine that's a lot of pressure. The person is like, I was stunned. I was amazed because I
Mm.
feel like the stories that I told were not even the best ones.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm missing something. I feel like he's not going to get the whole picture of my purpose and what it is that I'm building.
Yeah.
And so he said something like the unknown to step in adventures into the unknown so that you connect with your global family.
Mm.
We've talked together for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
At that moment, I realized the power of stories. So I came out of that and worked on it a little bit more because there were some other values missing. So we got the adventures, we got the connection, but then there was the empowerment piece that was missing. I took you through the bushes and all that just to tell you that the vision pillar is very important. The second pillar is voice, right?
Okay.
And the second pillar is voice. And voice is really about diving deep into what you already have, your gift, your values, the, the stories that you hold inside
Mm.
that most people that are listening to this are not sharing on a daily basis.
Right.
The voice pillar is really about untangling from the self doubt and internal sabotage that keeps them from sharing their voice, crafting their go to stories so they can make an impact. And the third pillar is visibility, vision, voice, visibility. Visibility brings everything together. You have your message, a clear vision, you're on a mission and clear about that. You have your go to stories. You might feel some anxiety sensations, a little bit of stress, a little bit of, but what if it's excitement, right? Visibility is really about having a map, a plan, a roadmap where you know that for the next 30 days, you're going to go on a podcast. You're going to reach out to people. You're going to start sharing your story. It might differ for everybody, but that's the journey of the catalyst.
Oh, I love that. The three V's. So vision, voice, and visibility.
Yes.
Oh man, that just sounds so powerful when you say it like that. Let's jump into some practical advice for anybody that's listening right now and who's seeking to elevate their visibility and their influence. What are three steps you would tell them that they can take starting today by using their voice and their story more effectively?
Okay. So I think, first of all, a lot of people are not confident or they're uncertain about which stories to tell. And we need to know what message we want to share. If I'm coming back to the vision piece, let's say, for example, you go on a podcast, you want to start sharing your voice. This is you're going to build, and you know that there's going to be questions that are going to be asked. Every time you go on a podcast is an opportunity for you to learn. And when you go on the next podcast, you can start to tell yourself, okay, was what kind of questions did the host ask me
Yeah.
that instead of just responding with dry answers, I can, yeah, let's call it like that.
Yeah, call it what it is.
You can tell a story, right?
Wow.
So for me, it was easy to go back to the time when I attended Simon Sinek workshop because this is something that I've thought about and I worked on, right? This is an experience that I live. But I think most people, they're not aware of the stories and they don't take inventory.
Yeah.
But the first step is if you can have a library of stories at all time in your mind, or even better in your heart, if you can have that all the time and just keep building that library, you can start with one story and then go on with the next one, right? But if you can have that at all time, no matter what conversations you have, whether it's a sales conversations or with a person at the grocery store, then you have stories to tell and you can better connect with people. So that's the first step. And really, there's no one size fit all. I'm just giving you keys right now and you take what you want. But a second piece of advice that I want to give you is to go out there and make connections. Dia, I want to tell you today, I went to the garage. Most of the garage are closed on Saturdays.
Hmm.
So I found one that was open and that was rated 5.9 stars on Google Maps. So when you see this, it tells a story of trust, so credibility.
Correct.
And so I went to the garage. He took me right away. At the end of the service, we connected. I started asking him questions,
Mm-hmm.
and the owner of the garage opened up. He told me about his life and how he arrived in Canada in 2019 with his family. And the reason why he could not speak French right now is because when COVID hit, and instead of attending his French classes, he had to work 12 hours a day because most people didn't want to work during that time.
Mm.
And so I'm not going to tell you the whole story. The point is, when you start to collect those stories, do you remember how I told that full story and there was a lesson at the end? I told it to you guys in the mastermind.
Yeah.
Everybody came with their own lesson at the end.
Mm.
And so when we have a collection of stories, then the next thing to do is to go out there and share them. What's the point of collecting books if you don't read them?
Mm.
It's the same thing with stories. What's the point of crafting stories or just collecting them and your library of stories and you never go out and tell them? There's no point. You need to go out, take action, connect with people, and you never know which stories is going to come. When I came on this episode of the ImPrint Experience Dea, I don't have a paper beside me saying, oh, this is the story that I'm going to tell. They
Yeah.
come as we talk.
Yeah. You done dropped so many gems already.
A third
Yeah.
piece of advice would be to have a habit of doing something that is uncomfortable.
That's
For
good.
me, I haven't gone on podcasts so many times. I went 2 times on JP's podcast in 2022 and 2023. There was Imari's Father's Day in June, Father's Day conversation with 3 other wonderful dads. Other than that, I did have so many conversations, but podcasts like that where it's recorded and it's going to go out there, I can count 3 times right now. Maybe there's some that I'm missing, but on podcasts, I think it's the fourth one.
Wow.
And so before that moment when we step into the spotlight, there's a little bit of nervosity, right?
Yeah.
You can call it. And for me, the way I reframe it is as thrill. I know that whether we knew each other or not, this is a human conversation. This is a human experience.
Yeah.
So why it is that I can say hello to somebody in the street and strike a conversation. And all of a sudden, because I'm in front of a camera or in front of a microphone, that's going to be showed out there.
Yeah.
That's going to be presented out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's still uncomfortable, right? There's that mind reframe that I am telling myself so that I can change my internal stories.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's uncomfortable. But guess what, Dia? I'm still doing it. So the third piece of advice is if you want to achieve anything in life, you got to cross the edge of comfort and go towards the other side of the hill. If you want to see something amazing, create something that is going to make you grow and create that impact you seek to create.
Yeah. That's so good, Sam. I really hope that people take all three of those gems and most importantly that last one because honestly, the best version of ourselves is on the other side of the decisions that we are not willing to take at this present moment. Every time I have done something in my own life where I was proud of myself, it was always because I had made a decision to do something that before I would have never done. It's life changing. So I'm gonna
Oh,
get to the last part of the podcast.
I got to cut you off because
Go ahead.
because you said something important, right? So many times in my life, you said it. I love the way you said, but there were some times in your life where you had to cross the boundaries of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You discovered that if you didn't do it, then you were gonna stay stuck in limited zone.
Yes.
and you were not gonna achieve what you set out to achieve, right?
Correct.
What you just said, there were some moments in your life like that, right?
Yeah.
And if you just take a moment to reflect about one of those moments, right? There is a story. Too many times we don't take a moment to reflect about those moments. Hey, Dia, I have a special request for you. Can I
Okay.
be the host of your podcast for a second?
Oh man, only you would ask something like that, Sam.
You didn't expect it, right?
I definitely didn't expect that. Let me give you the keys to the kingdom.
Thank you so much. I take it. So I know you didn't expect it, but you're not surprised at the same time.
I can't be surprised.
All right. So, Dia, I got a question. We're talking about storytelling and sharing our voice out there. And I was talking about podcasts, but really, there is so many platforms out there. It can be on social media through creating content. It can be on stages, whether it's physical stages, virtual stages, online presentations, you name it.
Mhm.
But we're on the ImPrint experience. So I want to know how can storytelling and everything that I shared today, we can tie it up to print marketing.
That's a good question, Sam. So I think what you do helping people to use their voice as empowerment, being the voice empowerment catalyst. If people start to think before they put on an event, before they print something for their business, there should be a story that they're telling through those things. And even related to the client experience piece of this, because how you service somebody becomes a part of their story. And the story that they have with you, right? That combined story is what they'll go on to tell other people. And people become a walking billboard for our businesses and our client experience. If I give somebody a good experience, then they will use their voice to empower maybe somebody else, even through the experience that they had with me through my business. And so I would say that everybody needs to stop first and think about the story that they are trying to tell
Yeah.
through the power of print or through the power of the events that they're holding for their audience. And so that's a great way to tie everything in together because it's all connected at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about the vocal voice a lot, but what really matters also is to understand that there are many types of voice. Before me sharing my voice out there, like my physical voice, my vocal voice, I
Yeah.
wrote a lot. I've been writing for 20 years. Ever since I was 12, I was writing, and that was the way that I expressed myself. And that was also the way that I improved my communication skills and the way I communicate with people. So, what you just said right now is very important to note because there is the written voice, there is the printed voice, there is the visual voice. All of that matters, right? So that ties it up real nice with the print marketing, the things that you are offering to your clients.
Oh man, I love that. I love how you said there's different voices. It's not always verbal, but it's
Yes.
through the print. And that's so powerful. Just a quick example of that. I picked up my son today and on the back of his sweatshirt, it said, "What will you be when the world ends?" Man, you talking about impact? And I asked him, I said, "What's on the back of your sweatshirt?" He was like, "I don't know." He doesn't even realize
Oh,
he's walking around with a loud voice on his
yes.
clothing, right? Anybody that reads that will instantly stop and think about what they are in that present moment.
Mm,
And it's powerful which of what you're saying about how print has a voice, but it
yeah.
does. The words that we choose, the pictures that we choose, the colors that we choose, and putting that all together on any type of print marketing, it's going to have a voice and it's going to speak to whoever's viewing that, whoever's having an experience with that print marketing. And this is why I'm so big on client experience and why I try to educate people on how your print is a part of your client experience because sometimes that is the first part of the funnel, right? Like your sales funnel, that's the first step. They might see a poster somewhere or a billboard or a flyer somewhere
Mm, yeah.
first before they ever encounter you. And so what are you telling them through that print marketing? What are you saying to them? What are they reading and what feeling or emotion are you giving them when they're looking at your print marketing? And so it's extremely powerful. The voices that we portray, whether it's coming from our mouth or on print or even in our client experience. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
This is this is the best example. You
Yeah.
just told the story about your son having words, 8 words
Yeah.
exactly on his back. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we discount the stories, but the reality is we tell stories every day. We're just not aware of it, right? And so what you just said is a perfect example of a story. 8 word, the story that you told, but also the story that was on your son's back, an 8 word story that people can read and be touched. And no matter if the person goes to see your son and ask about it or just have a conversation, it might change somebody's perspective or just make them smile or make them think, reflect, and make their day better.
It's definitely going to evoke some emotions and make them think for
Yeah, bro.
sure. Love it, love it. Thank you for taking over my podcast.
Hey, it was a pleasure. I will do that every day.
Oh man. This conversation has been so powerful, Sam. I'm honestly thinking about my own stories. Have I been using my voice as a tool to empower myself and empower other people? Even just starting this podcast was a stretch for me, and more so because I didn't like the sound of my own voice on a podcast. And I think I had mentioned this before. It truly is empowering to hear your voice in a digital space and you're able to play that back and listen to yourself. Sometimes it's like you're having a out of body experience. Just like the voice memo that I sent you this morning, I had literally just cracked my eyes and you asked me a question. I answered it. And when you responded, a couple hours went by and I went back and listened. And I'm like, what did I say? That was so powerful. I re-listened to it like suggested, and I was like, "Wow, I was dropping gems first thing in the morning," but
Yeah, it's true.
you know,
And the difference on not even realizing you were dropping gems. I was like, when I woke up and I heard that, I listened to your voice memo.
yeah.
What did she do this morning to be so inspired?
It was what I did the night before, because after the hot seat I had last
Oh,
night, my brain was rolling and I was just going, man. I took some caffeine and I was just up creating last night, man.
wow. I think it was because during that hot seat, I didn't ask my question,
Yes.
but I didn't ask it. I knew you had so much going on. And I think it was unconscious because I really didn't think about the timing of my
Yeah.
question. I sent you the memo after, and I'm like, I need to know your mission. I want to know your purpose. And that's the thing that's going to make you differentiate yourself, really connect with people that are similarly driven by the same outcome and the same values. And I think it was so perfect because you didn't respond right away.
Yeah.
You took a moment and then in the morning you responded and boom, that was perfect.
You was pulling it right out of me. You pose questions that really causes people to think deeper, right? Like about their stories as it pertains to their business and their offering. And that's something I find extremely valuable with every conversation that we have. At this point, I expect every conversation we have to end up on your podcast in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Because you'll spend regular conversations and just dig deeper in being a natural introvert, I really appreciate that about you. I don't like small talk, but if I can jump into like deep conversation, like I love that. I can talk for hours. So I really appreciate that about you and what you do. Can you tell our listeners how they can connect with you, learn more about your work, and even work with you as well?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, thank you for the call. I jumped right into the opportunity. It was a blessing. So we podcast swap. Yeah. So yeah, it was a blessing. Thank you so much, Dia, for the invitation.
No problem.
How can people connect with me? A good way to connect with me is on Instagram. You can reach out to me, send me a DM, and it's at the Catalyst Sam. So the Catalyst Sam on Instagram. This is where you can connect with me easily. I am reserving my words and stories on Telegram. So you can catch me on Thread as well. And one of the ways for you to listen to some of the lessons and stories, not just from me, but from the people I meet and have conversations with, is on Spotify. This is the Morning Catalyst on Spotify.
That is fantastic. Be sure to check out Sam's work. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the ImPrint Experience. Remember, your story and your voice have the power to shape your journey. Start speaking your truth today. I will also have Sam's contact information in the description if you are watching us on YouTube so you can connect with him there. Until next time, stay inspired, keep pushing forward, and never underestimate the power of your story. See you on the next episode of the ImPrint Experience.